אנחנו בשם אדוני אלוהינו נזכיר. אימו קורב נפלו, אנחנו קמנו על הסדר. אדוני השיע, המלך יעננו וינקרנו. Hey. Before we continue, regarding tests, yes. Before we continue, I'm sure everybody over the weekend had different, went to different upbringings, heard different things, some interesting stories. So I also heard interesting things. And one upbringing, I heard a story. I heard it more than once. It happened with the Friedrich Rebbe, actually on the day of the Veata, the day of the funeral. I heard different versions. You know how stories, this one says this detail, that one says a different detail. And then I was very surprised. Someone sent me in a video of the person that it happened to telling the story. So it means you got it straight from the source and it's accurate. So it's a short story. Good morning, Rabbi Pate.
Rabbi, I want to protest the parable of the Zayre.
What happened?
No school from Wednesday to Wednesday.
No.
How much is the Zayre?
What do you mean Wednesday? It starts Thursday, I think.
They put a fancy name on it.
Whoever, no, we also said whoever wants to come to school can come. Teachers and students.
But tomorrow there's going to be a protest outside the school.
Is it paid for? This is like a real protest. So the story is about a Yid who was unfortunately in the Holocaust, lost his family. He came to America. He had nothing. But before he came here, he got married. He had one child. And there was an organization called The Joint. They organized people to come from Europe to different countries. And they set him up in a hotel in Manhattan called the Capitol Hotel. That's where they brought the people when they took them out of Europe. Of course, at that moment, his first concern was, how am I going to survive? I have no job. How am I going to get a job? It's a new country, new language. He came from a city called Munkach. In Munkach, it was a very big Hasidic Rebbe. And there was a very close relationship between that Rebbe, called the Munkach Rebbe, and Lubavitch. And when he grew up, you heard a lot of stories about the previous Rebbe. And he heard the stories about how the Friedrich Rebbe had Mesiras Nefesh, he was in jail and miraculously released. When he came to New York, yes, someone said, really true that Rebbe, good morning, that famous Rebbe from Lubavitch lives here in New York? Yeah, he lives in Crown Heights. He came on a Thursday. He's very excited. And he says, he doesn't even have money how to get there, but he has to get there and see that's great. He wants to at least see him. That was Thursday. Sunday morning, he said he was on the 10th floor, goes downstairs, and he sees the Jewish newspaper, the headlines that the Lubavitch Rebbe passed away, and today's the funeral. He lost the opportunity. But he said to himself, well, for sure, I have to get to the funeral. He had another friend who wanted to go with him. So they both emptied their pockets, whatever money they had, and they got into a taxi and they came to Crown Heights. Came to Crown Heights, there was thousands of people here. He made up his mind he wants to go over to the Oren, which means to the coffin. He wants to be able to carry it, have that merit. but he had thousands of people. He says, well, I came from a Hasidic town, so I knew how to get my way around with my elbows, push my way through. And I did. I got all the way to the front. When I came to the front, there were young men blocking the area, and they said, no one should approach the Aron unless they were in the mikveh. In Yiddish, in those days, the olden days, because in the old country, we don't always have a mikveh like we have, a building, but they used to go to the river. So they would say, whoever wasn't in the water today shouldn't approach. In Yiddish, whoever wasn't in the water. He walked over, so they said to him, were you in the water today? So he said, I was in fire. I was in the Holocaust. Lost my whole family. And after that, he said, okay, you can walk over. He walked over and carried the coffee. And he said, obviously, maybe that shouldn't have been the thing to think about, but at that moment, what was pressing the most on him was, there's no parnasa. So he said, Rebbe, please, I'm alone in this world. Family is gone. All I have is a wife and a child. Please help me, I should have parnasa. Then after the funeral was over, he went to the cemetery. He was looking how to get back home. There's no money for a taxi on there. He had to go by train. He had no idea how to go by train. He just came to America. They walked over to someone who was Jewish. And he asked him, yeah, he spoke Yiddish. And he told him how to get to the train. And he said to him, in Yiddish, it's an expression like, so what do you do for a living? What's Yid? So he said, well, that's my big dilemma right now. I'm looking for something. I do anything. I just want a job. He said, you know what? My father-in-law has a factory in Manhattan that manufactures handbags. Go there tomorrow morning to this address. You have a job. He got a job right on the spot, right after the Veata. And he went there. They hired him. He worked there, he said, for about 3 months. And being that I knew I came with the Rebbe's bracha, I went out and did my business on my own. And I forgot the name of the store. He said that he manufactured and he provided handbags for a chain of stores all over America. He was very successful. The bracha was fulfilled instantly. So I heard the story in different versions, but then I heard the person himself telling the story. He had a bar mitzvah. And he said, they're asking me to tell the story about the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Let me tell you the story. Okay. So we're going back to the Mamar. And the Mamar, the Mamar of Tetzaveh. And what he said here was this, it brought out the idea that when it says in the, when it says in the Megillah, that Yidden re-accepted the Torah at a much higher level than in the times of Matan Torah, which was 1,000 years earlier. In the Mamar, he asked the question in the beginning, how could that be? When they went out of Mitzrayim, they saw godliness in the most revealed way. They saw miracles in Mitzrayim, one plague and another plague. They saw miracles when they left Mitzrayim. They saw miracles at the splitting of the sea. They saw miracles with the war against Amalek. They saw miracles with the man falling down from Shemayim. They saw godliness in the most revealed way, like it has never been seen before and never after until Mashiach comes. And yet they didn't accept the Torah fully. And in the times of Haman, when godliness was concealed more than anything else, that's when they did accept the Torah on a higher level. How did that make sense? And what was the answer? The answer was because during the times of Haman, they were crushed. And when there's kosis, when a person is crushed, the deepest depth of the neshama comes up to the surface. So therefore, there's a certain part of the neshama that came to the surface dark in the time of Haman. But then the Rebbe raised the question. When it says in the Megillah that they re-accepted the Torah, it was actually after the miracle, when they were no longer crushed. There was a miracle, and now they saw Hashem revealed through the miracle, and then they re-accepted the Torah. So how is it consistent with what we're saying, that the reason why they accepted the Torah in such a strong way is because they were crushed? The Rebbe says both things are true. Number one, they were crushed before the miracle when there was still a decree and they re-accepted the Torah. And it's also true that they re-accepted the Torah after the miracle, but also because they were crushed. How did it make sense? Why would they be crushed? They just had this miracle. And the answer is because when the Yid is in Golus, even if everything is good, no longer being persecuted, no longer being prevented from learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, there's nothing standing in your way. In fact, you have everything good and plenty begashmius and baruchnius. The mere fact that we're in Golus that's the reason that a person can be crushed and crushed to the core. And because they were crushed and crushed to the core just from the fact that they're in Golus, therefore they re-accepted the Torah on a much higher level. And in order to give an example of that, we use the example of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe said, it's not your Gan Eden that I want, it's not your Olam Haba that I want. What I want is you yourself, Atzmos, which means even if I'm learning Torah, and even if I'm learning mitzvahs, and even if I have love for Hashem, and even if I have all that, but as long as the essence of Hashem is still hidden from me, then I'm crushed to the core. Because that's where we are and at our essence. The essence of the neshama wants nothing less than the essence of Hashem. Right? That's what we did until now. Now comes the part where the question is, so how does this relate to us? We relate to this. I mean, this is the Alter Rebbe, the biggest tzaddik in that. So let's look inside. So we're going to page 387 in lessons in Maimarim, the Mamar Veata Tetzaveh, page 387. So after the Rebbe brought that example, no, here's what the Rebbe brings the example. You do it, no, Mashikosav Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek writes, Shahaya Nishma Mimerenu Rabbeinu Nishma Seidi. That we heard from the Alter Rebbe these words: Ich will nicht garnished. I want nothing. Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden. I don't want your Gan Eden. Doesn't mean Chas Shabbat I want. It means that's not satisfying me. Ich will nicht dein Elam Haba. Elam Haba is not satisfying me. What do I want? Ich will man nicht dich allein. I want nothing less or nothing else but you alone. You, your essence. But being that we heard this from the Alter Rebbe, what does it mean we heard it? The language, the grammar lends to understand that it doesn't mean that it happened once. Something which was very, which is often. Befrat, and especially Lachish and Esparsim the Tzemach Tzedek, after the fact that the Alter Rebbe did it alone is enough of a reason to say that he paved the way, and therefore it's easier for us to achieve that. On top of that, the Tzemach Tzedek went and publicized it. That means Nitin HaKoyach L'Cholechad V'Echad Miyisrael, that the power was given to every Yid. She'ikar Ritzona Yir Gili Atzmos. That his real desire should be that he wants that the essence of Hashem should be revealed. Let's keep going, and then we'll explain. 388. At Kedei Kach, and that desire is so strong and so much force. Shekashein Mergil if the essence of Hashem is not revealed, and especially in the time of Golus, that not only the essence is not revealed, but even the light of Hashem is not revealed, the way it was in the Beis Hamikdash, that will bring the person to be b'matzav the kosis, in a way that is totally crushed. Who is he? Everyone, all of us. So this is based on something which we learned when we did the Mamar, the Rebbe's Mamar. Remember we said, why did the Rebbe bring those stories? How come there's stories in a Mamar? So the point was that everything that the whole point of the Mamar was that we have to transform the shtus of klipa into shtus of kedusha. And then the Rebbe goes on to say that whatever the Rabbeim of Chabad demanded of us, they themselves lived that way. And by the fact that they lived that way, and not only that, but the fact that they shared with us that they did that, that empowered us and enabled us to do the same thing. To give an example, it's a little bit different, but it's the same principle, the same idea. The city of Tzvas, at a certain point, had the greatest tzaddikim all together in one place. The Arizal lived in Tzvas. At the same time, the Beis Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Kara, the one who wrote the Shulchan Aruch, also lived in Tzvas. And at the same time, the Shalah lived there, and the Al-Shach lived. Each one was a giant in his own right. And one time, the Beis Yosef, with Rabbi Yosef Kara, again, he's the one who wrote the Shulchan Aruch that the whole world lives by up to this day. So you can imagine what kind of tzaddik he was. He had something difficult in learning, and he couldn't figure out the explanation to the Gemara. And he struggled, and he struggled, and he struggled. I'm not sure the details are accurate, what I'm saying, but if I remember correctly, he struggled for a few days to understand what it means. And after a few days, finally, he got it. He was overjoyed. He finally got the explanation. He understands it. Something was not clear. Now he got it clear, and he was very, very excited, very, very happy. A few days later, he's in shul, and there's someone giving a little shir. There's someone was a Torah scholar, but nowhere near the level of the Rabbi Yosef Kara. And he hears one of the students asking this question. And the rabbi thinks for about a moment, and he gives that answer. And he was so broken. How can that be? I worked on this for so many days until I figured it out. And this person, who's not in the same place where I am, he answered it just like that. That means there must be something in me that's blocking my understanding of Torah. And I really need to figure that out and get rid of it. He was very broken. He went to the Arizal, and he told him the story. So the Arizal said, no, that's not the case. You're misunderstanding what happened here. What happened here was that this was a new insight of Torah that was never, ever revealed in this world before. Of course, everything is included in Matan Torah, but it was never revealed in a revealed way. By you working on it and struggling, because whenever something new has to be revealed, there are also things that are blocking it, shouldn't be revealed. So you had to break through all those things that are blocking, and through all your hard work and your effort, eventually you revealed it. Once it was revealed, now a simple guy like that guy could also access it and can understand it. Like the marshal of the wall, that is the wall blocking, and everybody tries to break through the wall. That's impossible. One very strong, powerful person comes along and he breaks through the wall. There's an opening, and then everybody just walks through. And you say, how did they walk through with such ease? Look how hard he had to work. Well, once he worked so hard and he made an opening in the wall, now everybody could go. So sometimes they use a muscle of an opening in a wall. Sometimes you use a muscle of paving a path, where you have to walk somewhere and there's a lot of grass or bushes, and somebody walks through and sort of paves the way. Now everybody can go through. So the same thing here. Once the Rebbe does a certain kind of avodah, and he shares it with us, that means by doing that, he's empowering us that we can follow in that path, because he already broke through. If the Rebbe goes ahead and publicizes it in a way that it becomes really public knowledge, that means it's relative to all. It's something which is connected to all of us. It means on some level we can all live on that level. So what does that mean? That means the Rebbe says that each one of us could feel totally crushed if the essence of Hashem is not revealed. So this is the part that I want to explain today. How could you understand this? What does it mean? And basically, this is what it means when the Rebbe would say that we should shout Ad Mosai, not just say Ad Mosai. Like people ask, why do we have to shout Ad Mosai? Well, I can just say Ad Mosai, or whisper like Shemon Esrei. The answer when a person shouts, when do you shout? When you're really emotional about something, when you're really worked up about something, you scream. In fact, the Rebbe once gave a mashal that if something hurts, people scream. How is the screaming going to help? They don't scream because if I scream, it's going to help. But when something hurts, you scream. You don't talk and whisper, you scream. So basically, when we're screaming at Masai, it's because it crushes us to the core. But does it really mean when we scream at Masai, we're crushed to the core? We know that we're not on that level. Let's look a little bit further, and then I'll explain it. And therefore we ask 3 times a day, which means we're relentless. We don't give up. Chakras, mincha, Meir, B'Sevzena, and Neinu B'Shuv Choletzim Rachamin. We're asking Hashem, my eyes should see how your presence returns to Tzir, which means to Yerushalayim, with compassion. Sha'oz Yigila L'Kus, because then when the Beis Hamikdash will be rebuilt, godliness will be revealed, and not just godliness in general, which means Hashem's light, but Gilui Atzmos, the essence of Hashem. And that's what it means, crushed to the luminary. That the being crushed brings out the luminary, the essence of the neshama. That by being crushed from the fact that we're in Golos, Magiyim Lahamor, that makes the person reach the essence of the neshama. The fact that a yid is not just satisfied with putting on tefillin and learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, but the fact that I have a desire, I want godliness to be revealed, and especially the desire that not just godly light, I want the essence of Hashem, nothing else will satisfy me. And therefore, who nishbar, the nitka, he's broken and he's crushed from the fact that we're in Golos. That comes etzem and neshama. In other words, if a person has a desire, I want godliness revealed, I wish the light of godliness would shine in the world, that desire comes from the light of my neshama, my intellect, my emotion, that the part of my neshama would be satisfied with godliness just being revealed. The fact that I say even that is not enough. I want the essence of Hashem to be revealed. I want the essence of Hashem to be close to me. That comes because that's the essence of every Yid's neshama wants the essence of Hashem, which means what the Alter Rebbe did or said, really every Yid is up to that in terms of our essence. Consciously we don't feel it, but deep down the essence of my neshama wants the same thing, the essence of the Alter Rebbe's neshama. And the essence of Moshe Rabbeinu. This is the essence of every neshama. Because we explained in the beginning of the Mamar that the source of the neshama is not just from the light of Hashem, not just because the neshama sees Hashem, because the neshama is one with Hashem. So being that the essence of the neshama is one with the essence of Hashem, therefore the neshama will not be satisfied until it's reunited with the essence of Hashem. So now we come to the question of, but practically speaking, we're screaming at Masay, we're screaming loud. There was once, if I bring it was Lag BaOmer, and the Rebbe spoke about Ad Masay, everybody was singing Ad Masay. How do you know by Chabrengen when to stop singing? Did the Rebbe pick up his hands? How did we know? But we're able to tell when the Rebbe was getting ready to speak. He didn't do anything to stop the singers. Usually the Rebbe would turn around and say, L'chaim to this one, L'chaim to that one. Then at a certain point, you see the Rebbe straightening out, getting ready to speak. Somebody knew to stop singing. Here, the Rebbe kept saying, L'chaim here, L'chaim there. There was no sign of stopping. We sang Ad Masay for an hour and a half. An hour and a half, that's all that was happening. Ad Masay over and over and over and over. What? Just sang it.
How?
Which niggin?
Yeah.
Which niggin?
You were there?
Of course I was there.
We're playing back on it.
Okay, give him a minute, he'll come back soon. Listen. Um, I don't know. Okay, come back in a second. So in a sense, what did that express? Again, when it ended, the Rebbe made a comment sort of like, we have to set up someone who's going to make a seder here, that things don't go on like that. It was as if it was just by default, but it was clear the Rebbe wanted it that way, because at any moment it could have just stopped. Or whatever explanation you can give, it was clearly that there was something about the idea of just shouting, not shouting, but screaming at Moshe to the end. Because the Rebbe made the motion that he usually does, that he wants to start speaking. Didn't do that in an hour and a half, right? What he did was basically he was just turning to different people, answering l'chaim, sometimes maybe with his hands to sing a little louder.
On time.
Yeah. So the answer to this is the answer. So one of the ways of explaining it. When people ask that, it's very beautiful. It says it, but practically speaking, even people who say Ad Masay and scream Ad Masay, can you really say that this is the essence of my neshama? Like with the Rebbe, we see it. This was the essence. He didn't stop talking about it. When he spoke about it, he was talking. You could see that his whole heart was bursting with pain. It was clear, but with other people, you say that on that level. But the answer is this is similar to a lot of other things, which is that outwardly, I might be doing things for the reasons that I'm interested in. But Chassidus explains, being that deep down we have a neshama, so even if outwardly I'm doing it for some ulterior motive, but being that deep down my neshama wants it for the right reason, so in essence, it is considered as if I'm doing it for the right reason. This is basically, first of all, I'll give a few examples. First of all, the famous thing about learning Torah. The Gemara says when you learn Torah, you're supposed to learn it for the right reasons. It's called Nishma. Nishma means that you learn Torah for its own sake. So if a person learns Torah because they want to get reward, that's not the proper way of learning Torah. The person learns Torah because they want to get honor, they'll be considered a scholar and everybody will give them a lot of honor, a lot of respect, they'll be famous. That's not the right reason for learning Torah. Even if they're learning Torah because they want to get Olam Haba and get reward in the world to come, it's not the right reason. They're looking for reward. So what's the right reason? The right reason, I'm learning Torah because Hashem said so. And by learning Torah, I'm connecting to Hashem. So one would think if that's the case, and learning Torah for the wrong reasons is the wrong thing to do, then I should not learn Torah until I get to a place where I have a desire to learn Torah for the right reasons, not for any ulterior motive. Gemara says no. A person should always learn Torah for whatever reason will motivate them, and because ultimately, from learning it not for the right reason, you'll come to learn it for the right reasons. And the Gemara's words are miteich shalei lishma. This is the word in Hebrew. It means from doing it for ulterior motive, you come to do it for the right reason. The Rebbe says, the Chassidus that explains the word mitoich has another meaning. Toich means inside. That the inside of a person who does it for an ulterior motive, inside it's for the right reason. And the same with Miftzayim. You stop someone on the street, a man, and you ask this man, would you like to put on tefillin? He's a nice person. He doesn't want to disappoint you. He says, okay, I'll put on tefillin to make you feel good. So someone else will come along and say, what worth is it if he's not doing it for the right reason? He's just doing it to make you feel good. So the answer is, first of all, when it comes to halacha, bottom line is, you put on film, it counts. Second thing is, even though consciously he's doing it for that reason, but deep down, subconsciously, his neshama is doing it for the right reason. One of the most powerful things that the Rebbe brings very often in Sichos, could be you've heard it, but I'd like to give you the source so you'll see it inside. Someone doesn't mind to give this out. There are a number of places in the Rambam, which is a book of halacha, that we look in the Rambam and we'll be very surprised to see like pieces of Chassidus in the Rambam, but in a language of halacha. The Rambam talks about a person that's obligated for some reason or other to give his wife a divorce, whatever the reason is. That the Bezdin says that according to halacha, the two of you cannot no longer be married. You have to give your wife a divorce. He doesn't want to, so we have a problem. What's the problem? A get, a divorce, is invalid if it's given against the person's will. If you force the person, twist his arm and say, just give it, and he gives it, he can do that, but halachically it's invalid. On the other hand, he doesn't want. So what's the halacha? Halacha is that you force him until he says the words, I want to do it. And then he gives it and it's valid. Since I'm a child, I'm learning about this. You always had the question, but like, come on, he doesn't really want. He's just saying the words. So look what the Rambam writes. If you want to read it in the Hebrew, I'll read it in the English. But this you have the Hebrew and the English. It's in halacha. When a man who the law requires to be compelled to divorce his wife does not desire to divorce her, the court should have him beaten until he consents, at which time they should have a get written. The get is acceptable. This applies to all times and all places. Even if a Gentile beats him while telling him, do what the Jews, which means the Jewish court is telling him to do, and the Jews have the Gentiles apply pressure on him until he consents to divorce his wife, the divorce is acceptable. However, if a Gentile compels a person to give a get in his own initiative, the get is unacceptable. The rationale is that the law requires him to give a divorce. So again, if a guy forces a yid to give a get against his will, and he says, I want to, it's worthless. So what's the difference? Why if the guy does it in the bedroom? The divorce is as follows. Because Api halacha is required to give a divorce, why is this get not void? For he's being compelled either by a Jew or a Gentile to divorce against his will. A get must be given voluntarily. So the answer is because the concept of being compelled against one will applies only when speaking about a person who is being compelled and forced to do something the Torah does not obligate it to give. For example, a person who's beaten until he consents to a sale. Like you say, okay, I want to sell this. I want to give this as a gift. It's worthless because we know he's being forced. If, however, a person's evil inclination presses him to negate the observance of a mitzvah or to commit a transgression, he was beaten until he performed the action he was obligated to perform and disassociate from the forbidden action. He is not considered to be forced against his will. On the contrary, it is he himself who is forcing his own conduct to become debased. Regard with this person who outwardly refuses to divorce his wife, he wants to be part of the Jewish people, and he wants to perform all the mitzvahs, and wants to stay away from all the transgressions. But his Yetzer Hara is presses him. Therefore, when he's beaten and his evil inclination has been weakened, and then he says, I want to, that's his true will. Could you imagine? This is a chunk of Chassidus in the Rambam. I don't think you find it anywhere else except for the Rambam. And what it's basically saying is that when this person says, I want, outwardly, superficially, is just being forced. But the pnimius, this is his neshama really coming out. It's his true will that's coming out. And by the way, we can apply this to a lot of things. A lot of things you say in davening, you think about it. Do I really mean these words that just came out of my mouth? I'm repeating what the Siddur says, but do I really mean those words? And the answer is, outwardly, consciously, maybe I don't. But the pnimius, whatever word I say, is coming out of my mouth. Got it? But I have a question. What's the question? If ever you deep down really wants to do what Hashem wants, So why do we even have to force him to say, I want? Just force him to give the get. And deep down he wants, so it's kosher. Why does he have to say the words, I want? Yeah. Okay, that could be an explanation. Even though very often he's doing it against his will, and I might even resent even more the Torah because look what they're doing to me, they're forcing it. So the other answer, which is brought down in the Sikhs, is the Torah is given here on earth, and everything with Torah mitzvah has to be done down here. Therefore, Begashmi is the person has to say, I want to do it. Has to come out of his mouth. The only problem is he says the words but doesn't really mean it. So the Torah tells us deep down he does mean it. The fact that consciously he doesn't, we're going to disregard that because deep down that's his real will, that's his real essence, that's who he really is. And therefore, need both. On one hand, if he would say the words and deep down he wouldn't have that desire, the words would be worthless. If you have the deep desire, but it doesn't say I want, then mitzad halacha, it's not good enough. You have to do the actual, just like there has to be an act of giving the get, there has to be something technical that shows that he wants, are the words. So you need both. Is that understood? And the same thing with mitzvahs. Just wanting to do is not enough. You have to do the mitzvah of tefillin. I don't really want to, but deep down I want, so it's considered I'm doing it for the right reasons, and so on. So that means there are a lot of things in Chassidus that it says that when you say this or you do that, it's an expression of something very deep, very high, and you think to yourself, I don't really feel that it's an expression of that. The answer is consciously it's not, but subconsciously it is. I'll give you another example. We just had yesterday the Hayom Yom. What was the Hayom Yom yesterday? That when say Moda Ani, that's the essence of the neshama is revealed. And that's why we don't even wash our hands. Essence of the neshama. When I wake up, my eyes are not even open yet. I feel like going back into bed, but I have to get up. And I'm tired. I don't even hardly know what I'm saying. And I go and say Moda Ani lefanecha. That's the essence. I'm half asleep. So the answer is consciously, at least for most people, I'm half asleep. But on a deeper level, when a person wakes up, that's when the essence of the neshama wakes up. And at that moment, the words of the ani that I'm saying, the words that come out of my mouth, is like this person says, I want. It's an expression of the essence of the neshama. And therefore, we say it with, that's what it says now, Yom Yom. Therefore, we say it with hands that are impure because of that reason. So it means if a yid screams, not just says, screams ad masai, which means just like this person says, I want, we are screaming, which means that I'm doing an act, which is an expression of something that I want from my essence. That's why I'm screaming ad masai. So even though technically and consciously that's not what I feel, but deep down that's what we feel. So if a person would say, okay, so I don't have to say it, I don't have to scream it, I can just know that my neshama wants it. No, that's not good enough. It has to be brought out verbally in a way that at least to the eye and on a level that we can relate to. It's like when the Rebbe says that, when you go out and you do Miftzayim, there's the ultimate level of Ahavas Yisrael. You think anyone who does Miftzayim at that moment is feeling like a burning desire of Ahavas Yisrael for every single person. But the answer is, but the act is an act of Ahavas Yisrael. And deep down, there is that burning desire of Ahavas Yisrael. So doing what I'm doing, which means letting go of what I'm busy with and being busy with someone else and helping that person learn Torah, do a mitzvah, deep down, this is an expression of my unconditional love for another yid, and therefore I give up what's precious to me and I spend my time helping someone else. This is part of it. Do you follow what we just said? It's understood. Any questions? All right, Reza, let's see you have a question.
You say one more time.
Yeah.
But,
No, I'm saying that when a person does Niftzayim, it's also a very high level of Ahavas Yisrael that I could use the time for myself, for my family, my children, and I'm going out and I'm doing something for another person. But that's an expression of unconditional Ahavas Yisrael. So I give up what's important to me. I'm asking every shliach when he's doing his shlichus, or when any one of us go out on a Friday afternoon doing Niftzayim, do I feel this fire of Ahavas Yisrael burning when I'm talking to this person? Not necessarily, not everybody at least. But nevertheless, being that deep down, that's the emes, and practically I'm doing an act which is an expression of unconditional Ahavas Yisrael, that I'm letting go. Like many people, there are millions of Yidden that are from learn Torah, do mitzvahs, and they don't take away from their own personal time to go reach out to someone else because I need it for myself. So the fact that I'm doing differently is an expression of my Ahavas Yisrael to the point that I'm giving up what's precious to me for someone else. So again, combine the two things. Practically, it's an act of unconditional Ahavas Yisrael. Internally, I have that love. And you put the two things together, there's an neshama and a guf, and this is an act of Ahavas Yisrael. Yeah.
I just have a question for someone said before. When we ask for Giluim, it comes from the essence, but when we ask for the essence of the essence, it's also the essence.
No, when you ask for Giluyim, it comes from the Giluyim of my neshama. In other words, when I say I have a desire to understand Hashem, to feel love for Hashem, that comes from the intellect and the emotion of my neshama. And that, no, the intellect and the emotion, which means learning about Hashem, knowing Hashem, and loving Him will satisfy that part of me. But when there's a desire that I say, no, I want the essence of Hashem, that comes from my essence, and that's why nothing else will satisfy it except for the essence of Hashem. And when will that be revealed? That's based on Mikdash. That's when Mashiach comes. There's still one more thing that I want to explain about this, and we'll do that tomorrow. But yes, please chew it over. See if you can explain it to someone else in your own words. And if you can, that means you understand it, and then we'll continue tomorrow. Okay.
But I don't remember the name.
What?
I don't.